Thank each and every one of you, individually and all of you together collectively, for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission. We have entitled this transmission, Interdimensional Portals and Where to Find Them. Now, this transmission will be a little bit all over the map, specifically the one in your hands. We will be dealing with a few energy portals, not all of them. We will start with some, and over time, we will introduce more and more and more of them in future transmissions. But for now, if you will regard the maps you have been given, we can begin. The idea first, of course, is what is an interdimensional portal? It is an overlap, if you will, a gateway, a doorway, a tunnel, an opening between one reality and perhaps more than another reality, maybe even several other realities, depending upon the nature of the portal. But the idea is that these are vortices. They are energy in motion, swirling motion, that breaks down the barriers between different realities, allows for a transition from one to the other, or at the very least, a utilization of the energy in that portal for whatever purposes you may intend to focus those energies on. But each and every one of those portals does have its own unique signature frequency that you can take advantage of more specifically if you are attracted to use that particular energy, that particular portal, as a permission slip. So with that in mind, we would like to begin to point out some of the ones that you already know about, but may not necessarily understand the specificity of that energy. We will begin with the idea of what many people on your planet call the major portals in the western side of your United States, being the idea of Haleakala in Maui, in Hawaii, and Shasta in your Northern California area. These being two major chakra portals. In the same way that you have chakra centers in your own body, the planet itself also has major, main chakra portals, vortices on your planet that represent certain kinds of energies. Haleakala represents the idea in general of the heart energy of the planet. So in that energy, you get an opportunity to feel your heart opening, to relax, to let go of all of the constrictions and restrictions that you might have imposed upon yourself with your belief systems. And it allows you to let them melt and dissolve and begin to really open up and feel yourself and develop and expand what you call your emotional IQ, your ability to tap into and empathize and connect through the idea of emotional energy to many other things and many other beings on your planet and in other dimensions. It centers you and allows you more ability to slow down time, in a sense, live more in the moment, which actually paradoxically allows you to experience an acceleration in your life. By living more in the moment, you are not creating as much time, and that feels like an acceleration in your reality, in your linear space-time reality. So Haleakala, being that particular chakra point, that particular vortex, the heart energy vortex on your planet, is very good for you to be able to realign yourself and let go and sort of reboot yourself on the emotional level, let everything mellow out, even out, go back to zero, and build yourself and crystallize yourself up again with regard to the kind of heart energy vibration that you would prefer to have. It is an area of support and nurturing, connecting you to nature in a variety of ways so that you can discover more clearly your own true nature through that heart energy. Now, coming into the vortex known as Shasta, this is representative of the crown chakra of the planet, that which connects you to spirit, but more specifically to your higher mind. In your own body's crown chakra, there is a kind of a vortex that looks like a cone with the point down here broadening up as it goes up to incorporate the bridge and the link to your own higher mind, so that along that conduit you can have greater communication, greater receptivity of communication from the higher mind, which generally translates in your physical body as the sensation of passion, love, creativity, excitement. So by associating yourself with the vibrational vortex of Shasta, you can perhaps, as a permission slip, based on your belief system, accelerate and amplify and magnify the connection, the bridge, the link you have to your higher mind, so that you can develop a relationship more strongly with the higher mind and the physical mind, so they can work together in a more harmonious way, allowing you to function on earth as a whole person. For when you only allow your physical mind to attempt to guide you through life, you are not using the totality of what you are as a personality, as a person. The higher mind acts as the guide for you because, in a sense, it is metaphorically standing on the mountaintop and can see much farther than the physical mind can, which is down in the valley wandering along the paths. So the higher mind can say, go left and go right and stop there and back up and go forward and keep you from falling into holes along the path. Keep you from finding things that are not necessarily aligned with your true being. Or at the very least, if you do find those things that are vibrationally not compatible with you, guidance from the higher mind can allow you to remain in a positive state and so extract the beneficial effect from whatever it is that occurs in your reality, because as we have said, it's not so much that what happens matters. What matters is what you do with what happens. And the idea of Shasta can create a stronger bond, a stronger link, and a stronger bridge vibrationally and energetically, and allow you to function as a whole person with the physical mind and the higher mind working in harmony, working together, and communicating very freely one to the other. As we have sometimes said, if you're only relying on your physical mind, then you are kind of functioning as a half-wit in physical reality. So allow yourselves to be a whole wit instead. You can use that vortex, that chakra point, that portal in that way if you are attracted to do so. And remember, the things you are attracted to because they align with your belief system. That's why the attraction is there. That's the magnetic pull that tells you, for right now at least, that particular permission slip is aligned sufficiently with your belief system to allow you to take advantage of it in such a way as to actually alter your belief system and allow you to give yourself more permission to be more of who you are. Now, let's come down to the idea of what might be called the sort of smaller portals in that sense. None of them are less important, but they have a little bit more distinctiveness and specificity about what it is they represent. And we're going to start down in the vortex and the portal that is labeled on the map as Roswell. Obviously, many of you know that this is associated with the idea of UFO activity and the beginning of the revelation of the existence of extraterrestrial beings on your planet and observing your planet and interacting with your planet in a variety of ways. It has come to symbolize the beginning of the era of your real conscious awareness of the existence of extraterrestrial beings. And therefore, Roswell itself represents and has been given the embodiment of the vibration of extraterrestrial energy and things that have to do with extraterrestrial information and relationship. So that particular vortex is good for magnifying, guiding, directing, focusing, and amplifying any ideas that you may wish to expand upon within your own relationships and connections to extraterrestrial energy, which you all have to some degree, or we probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you. So you can use the Roswell vortex in this way, if you wish. Now you see, going up into the idea of Santa Fe, that this particular vortex has to do with what's called ancestors, and this can mean a number of different things. This is more the idea of ancient connections on your planet, and not only ancestral connections to spirits that may be guiding you, spirit guides, so on and so forth, soul family members, so on and so forth, but also connects to intra-dimensional beings that we have talked about before, called the Kachinas, who live in a dimension that is actually in between other dimensions and form a kind of ancestor soul energy that connects you to the earth in a variety of natural ways. In Santa Fe, you can not only connect to these ancestor spirits and the Kachinas very strongly, but also get in touch with Gaia itself in a very unique way, with the consciousness of the planet, of Earth itself, expressing itself in a very unique way as it connects to other dimensions and has communication and dialogues with these kinds of beings, spirit guides and Kachinas and so forth. So this is a very reverential kind of energy, in a sense, a very introspective kind of energy that allows you to really get in touch with your connections to the earth, your connections to your spirit guides, your connections to your ancestor spirits, your connections to your soul family, and your connections to the Kachinas that bring about connections emotionally to many different kinds of things and patterns on your planet, such as the weather, and many other kinds of expressions of collective energy on your planet. So, in going to Santa Fe, if you are attracted to do so, you can strengthen the bonds of that understanding and dig more deeply down into your own inner being as it relates to these other beings that we have just mentioned, and the earth itself. Now we go up to an area that is generally referred to as Canyonlands, but specifically the idea of upheaval dome. Upheaval dome is actually an impact crater on your planet and connects to the idea of interdimensional energy, not only coming from space in that sense, but coming through and cracking open into different dimensions, a very strong, powerful electromagnetic portal that can have very profound and maybe sometimes even dizzying or disorienting effects on you as you stand in its energy, and it attempts to reorient you to different dimensional experiences within your own consciousness. So for those seeking a much, much more different kind of spiraling orientation and more awareness of different dimensions as they overlap with your reality, Upheaval Dome is very good for this and getting in touch with the different kinds of cosmic energies that exist throughout the multiverse and tapping into those other dimensional consciousnesses that can communicate with you in a very different way than an extraterrestrial being could. This is something that transcends space and time in a very unique way and can orient you to something very profound within your being and within your consciousness and awaken things you had not possibly even imagined before that would relate to you and the connections that you may have to higher dimensional realities. And now we come to the idea that you call Las Vegas. The idea is that this is the portal of probabilities. You have perhaps begun to notice that some of the reasons that certain cities exist in these areas is because of the nature of the energy portal in that area. Even though many people who may have started those cities may not have been completely conscious of this, they are attracted to those areas and built those cities in those areas because of the nature of the energy there. And what better place to put your Las Vegas than in the portal of probabilities? This is where the wheel spins and all bets are off, and you can really start to design your reality and get in touch more consciously with how you can allow the probabilities to build up in a synchronistic way so strongly that you experience a very different kind of way of having synchronicity in your life and the things that are being attracted to you and how they can be used in a variety of different ways than you may have originally conceived of them. So this opens the floodgates, opens up the probabilities, allows you to play with the idea of changing probabilities. As we have said, there really is no such thing as a prediction of the future, but there is a sensing at the present of the strongest energy that may exist at the moment of the prediction. And if you understand what the probability energy is of any given moment, then you can decide whether or not to maintain that probability level or whether to change that probability energy for yourself. So it gives you a sense of opening up all these different possibilities and probabilities for yourself and really guiding yourself into the reality that you really prefer. It's like having a skeleton key that unlocks you from any particular probability and really allows you to crystallize into yourself the probabilities that are certainly more representative of who it is you prefer to be and the reality that goes along with that. And therefore, that is that particular portal. And now we come to the idea of a portal that encompasses the areas of Los Angeles and where we are speaking to now in your Anaheim. This is the portal of parallel realities. And I'm just going to say one thing to illustrate this point. Why do you think Disneyland is here? It presents you with the idea of different realities in one location. And as you wander through that particular environment, you are exposed to different kinds of ideas, different kinds of realities, different kinds of scenarios and environments all in one place to show you that in the portal of parallel realities, and of course this is true for the idea of Los Angeles, the city of angels, the city of dreams, that there are many different expressions of different parallel realities all overlapping in one location, so that you can pick and choose the parallel realities that really suit you best and also be exposed to different parallel realities to give you an opportunity to pick and choose things you may not have considered to be viable for you, but by being exposed to them, by being presented with them, you may find that you take a liking to a particular expression of a parallel reality because parallel realities infuse themselves and overlap themselves into any given one reality experience because you're not really ever just experiencing one reality. As we have said, what you consider to be one reality is actually composed of billions of different parallel reality shifts every single second. So you're navigating your consciousness, shifting through these billions of different versions of Earth every single second. But when you create an environment such as Los Angeles or Disneyland in Anaheim, you actually expose the realities in a very specific, concrete and crystallized way. And there are, of course, many more of them than are represented in that idea. But you get an opportunity to unlock yourself and really understand how you're plotting your path and how you're navigating through all these different parallel realities that are creating what you believe to be or experience in continuity to be one particular timeline, which is actually composed of many, many, many different timelines. And we will get into that idea in another transmission as well, a little bit more deeply when we talk about the idea of parables and time crystals in our upcoming transmission. But for now, you can understand that you are smack in the middle of the portal of parallel realities. Now, this takes us to Sedona. And as you can see on the map, and this is no accident, Sedona is kind of the center point of this arc of these other portals. They are all almost, give or take, equidistant from Sedona. They all average about 320 to 333 miles from Sedona, and they form this arc. Sedona is the portal of amplification and magnification. It is one of the more powerful vortices on your planet and in your particular North American continent. And this is the reason why our ship is above Sedona and above that vortex, because we are aiding and assisting you in helping to funnel and channel, then filter that Sedona magnification and amplification energy to all these other portals to create a balancing effect in that semicircle, in that arc, and even including the idea of Shasta and Haleakala in the Western Hemisphere, but more specifically, more strongly in that arc of portals that surrounds Sedona. When you go to Sedona, its specific frequency of amplification and magnification is that it is like a mirror. It amplifies and magnifies what you bring with you, positive and negative, into that particular vortex, into that particular portal. And that's why we use that, because we can easily use that energy to shift and magnify and balance out all the other portals that are connected to it in that semicircular arc. So if you really want to find out what is being reflected to you, what kind of belief systems you might be holding on to that don't serve you, Sedona is a very good place to have that squarely in your face. So, this idea, again, of course, are representative of, as we said, permission slips. It's up to you to decide whether or not you are attracted to or gravitate to the utilization of any of these very specific portal energies. But we give you this map to begin with so that you can really begin to understand the specifics and the character and nature of each of these portals and use them in whatever way, shape, or form represents your highest passion. Does that make sense? All right. In return for the gift you are giving to us in allowing us to interact with each and every one of you, I ask you now, in what way may we be of service to you? You may begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish.
Well, let's say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Yeah. I will take that as okay. We thank you, each and every one of you individually, all of you together collectively, for the co-creation of this interaction. Once again, each and every time your civilization interacts with our civilization in this way, it creates a link, a bridge, and a third reality in which we can, one day, interact more and more closely, more and more immediately. So we thank you for the co-creation of this new paradigm, this new reality in which we can all together learn to play. This day of your time, this transmission will begin with a discussion of imagination. Now we have talked about imagination many times. We would like to take the concept a little bit further this day of your time. We have reminded you of the synchronicity in many of the words that exist in various languages on your planet. We understand the channel's language is English, and in this context, we point out again, as many of you are already familiar with, the synchronicity of the word imagination. Magi, nation. A nation of magicians is what you are. And you can use your imagination to create the kind of nation, the kind of world that you prefer. Imagination is an extremely powerful tool, and we will discuss in what ways this is so, and how you can apply your imagination in very powerful ways to allow and to create the kinds of changes that you would prefer to represent within your lives, individually, and again, within your lives, collectively, globally. And as you thus then move out into the cosmos, into the stars, and join with us eventually, you will find imagination is going to play a very key role in your ability to do that. So let us begin. We will remind you, first of all, that we have talked about the idea that imagination is the conduit between your higher mind and your physical mind. It is the pipeline through which your higher mind communicates with you, and through which, in receiving that communication, you can then, as physical beings, as physical personalities, apply the information, the imagination that comes from higher mind, the communication, into your physical lives, to alter them, to change them in ways that are more reflective of your passion, your excitement, your joy, your preference, or not. It is up to you to use this positively or negatively. It is up to you. But imagination is the key to allow an alignment to occur. And if you are willing to use your imagination without filtering the communication from your higher mind through belief systems that contain fear, then you will find that the outcome can always be a positive one, and you can always amplify and magnify that in any direction, in any area of your lives, whatsoever, no matter what. Higher mind, again, I remind you, has the far-seeing point of view. It stands on the mountaintop. It can see all the pathways you could possibly take in life, and it guides you toward the path of least resistance, the path that is most truly you. As we have said many times, the vibration of excitement, the vibration of passion is what functions like the compass needle. It is your magnetic north to your true self. By following your passion, by following your excitement, by pointing the needle in that direction and that direction only, you will always be completely, purely, squarely on the path that is most truly you, your core, true, natural self. Your imagination is the conduit through which your higher mind can guide you in this very easily, if you allow it to be effortless, which you can. Physical mind, then, chooses in physical reality various ideas of how to apply these ideas coming from the higher mind in ways that are also pleasing to the physical being that you are, the physical personality that you are, and you learn to work in concert as a whole being, as a whole person with the higher mind. For if the physical mind thinks that it must take on the job of figuring everything out, how is this going to happen? How can I make this happen? How can I bring everything together to get this to happen? If the physical mind thinks that it must be the only one doing that job, it is going to be burdened, it is going to be weighed down, it is going to be tired. Because the physical mind is not designed to know how things will happen. The physical mind is only designed to know how things have happened. The idea is thus then to trust the higher mind to let you know that if the higher mind is sending you information that pushes you in the direction of your passion, and you trust that, what the higher mind is telling you is that by following your passion, the how will be taken care of, because the higher mind can see how you're going to get there, and the translation of that how through the imagination is the physical sensation of excitement, joy, passion, and love. That's how the higher mind speaks to the physical mind through the conduit of imagination, with those feelings, those vibrations, those energies, those pictures. So the physical mind can learn to relax and not feel it has to carry all the weight of the world on its shoulders for figuring out exactly how everything's going to come into manifestation in its life. You can allow the higher mind to guide you in that, and you can relax and ride the wave of the energy that the higher mind sends through the imagination, and allow things to unfold in a synchronous manner, in an effortless, joyful, creative, loving manner. And thus then find yourself flowing through life. And even if the path that it leads you down may seem to be going left, going right, going here, going there, going where you least expected it to go, that is cause for celebration. Because as we say in our world, anytime something unexpected comes up, you want to say congratulations. Now you know you're really following your joy and allowing your life to unfold synchronously in front of you without it being so planned out, so rigidized, so insisting that it must be one way or another. Because if you really are open to the idea of what your higher mind can do through your imagination, it will almost always bring you something that is even more exciting than the physical mind was capable of actually picturing. So when you insist that it must be a certain way, you're actually limiting the ways in which it could actually come to you that might even be more exciting than you are actually capable of imagining. But imagination can act as the guide, the initial visualization mechanism to at least give you a bearing, give you a heading. And you can use that picture as a symbol to represent the energy, to symbolize the energy of the reality that is representative of your highest joy, of who you wish to be. But if you rigidize that picture and insist that it must turn out that way, then you are actually fighting against the flow of your higher mind. If you relax that it could come to you in another way and that what you're picturing is just a representation of that reality, then the energy can flow and you may find yourself winding up in a situation that is even more wildly fantastic than you were at first capable of picturing. Now, here is something else that is very important to understand about what imagination is. First of all, of course, understand it is a state of being. And any state of being causes certain kinds of states to exist in the neurology of your brain. When you are in an imaginative, creative state, your brain, the neurology, the way the electrical pathways flow will be different than any other state. Here is something that is important to understand. When you are born in physical reality, the first moment that you crystallize, shall we say, your spirit into the physical matrix, it crystallizes a kind of pattern within you that represents the idea of your soul agreement, your relationship to your higher self at that moment. What happens to it from there on will depend upon a lot of things, including input from your parents, society, so on and so forth. But that core agreement, that core relationship will always exist. So when you go through life and you've lived several years and maybe you find yourself becoming in your older age a little bit confused, a little bit forgetful of where you're going, why you came here, so on and so forth, looking for your joy, looking for your passion. Going into the state where you allow yourself to communicate with higher mind through your imagination will actually always bring you back to your 0 moment agreement of when you were born. It will actually restructure the neurological pathways of the brain back to that childlike moment where anything is possible. That's what's key to understand about the function of imagination in your physical reality. It's your reset button. So when you find yourself feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling at odds, go into your imagination. Open up the conduit of communion between your physical mind and higher mind and push the reset button. Go back to the 0 point. Let the neurological pathways realign. And then in that state, open up to the infinite possibilities and the choices you have made. And go forward from there afresh, anew, reinvigorated as a new persona. Because again, remember. When you make any change, you have made a total change. And that is what imagination allows you to do. Realign yourself in such a way in bringing yourself back to a kind of 0 point that you can then step out from there on any path you really so desire. That is representative of your highest passion. And know that when you do so, you really have cleaned the slate. And anything that may have seemed to be an issue that was an obstacle or a complication in your life formerly, at that moment of zeroing yourself out, is actually no longer there. Now, you can co-create it again. You can say, oh, it's still there. I still have to get over this. I still have to deal with this. You can do that. If that's your process, that's fine. I am not telling you how to live your life. If you want to include complications and misery in your life, please go ahead. I will not stop you, because if that's what gives you, quote-unquote, joy, then by all means go ahead and involve yourself in that idea of struggle. If that's your process, love it. And then you'll get the most out of it. What I am simply saying is you do not have to do that. You actually have a choice. And in that moment that you zero yourself out with your imagination and allow your neurology to realign, recrystallize back to that first moment, that first agreement, when you were a child, a newborn child, and step forward in that state of being, then all bets are off, as you say. You really have lost your history. You really only live in the present in that moment. And what you do from that moment forward is up to you. And it can be your reality completely, wholly, totally. Now, we have talked about the idea of imagination in context to the concept of all that is. The universe, if you will, the multiverse, creation in totality. Whatever you wish to label it, it doesn't matter. And then we spoke about the idea of understanding this. You cannot imagine non-existence. Go ahead, I'll give you a minute, try it out. There, you see? Couldn't do it. Because the point is that even if you could, by definition, imagining non-existence would be non-experiential. Therefore, how would you know you had done it? You would have no experience of it. And in having no experience of it, in that context, it isn't relevant. It doesn't exist. Therefore, conversely, anything, everything that you can imagine is somewhere, somewhen, somehow a reality, a real reality. It may not necessarily be relevant to the reality you are creating on Earth, but it is nevertheless real in some parallel dimension, some other reality, whatever you wish to label it. Whatever you imagine is also happening simultaneously with the reality that you are actually physically experiencing. So if in your imagination you do imagine you have 3 arms, wings, 4 eyes, and are purple, there is a reality where such a being, such a version of your soul actually does exist. It may not ever cross paths with you on Earth. You may never know that until you go to higher planes where you can see more of your soul's creation, and then you will go, oh yeah, there I am. Doing that thing in that universe with that kind of a form for that kind of a reason, because that's a symbol and a reflection of that kind of path and that kind of an experience. So anything you imagine is, in fact, tapping into some other simultaneously coexistent real reality. Yes, really, really real. Just as real as you feel your physical reality is for you. Now, the idea, of course, is one of discernment. It is real, but is it relevant to your reality? The idea of following your joy, following your passion, it's not to say you cannot create that here, but it is highly improbable, not impossible, but highly improbable based on the agreement you made to participate in the co-created mass consensus reality of Earth at this point in space-time, as you have created it. Strange things can happen on your planet, and strange things have and always will. And some of them are the confluence of someone actually fully letting go of any assumptions and expectations about what this reality has to be, opening the door a little wider than normal, and perhaps suddenly, there you go, something pops in that may not normally be relevant to your reality, and suddenly a legend is born, a myth is born. Oh, did you know there was such a creature, such a thing, such a happening? Well, those things do happen. They may pop in, they may pop out, and never be seen again. That doesn't mean they weren't real at that moment. It may have simply been only, in a sense, I'll put it this way, a momentary defocusing, a momentary relaxing of your agreement, but it also may be part of your agreement in the sense of presenting those kinds of ideas and realities to yourself so that you can play off them, reflect off them, and see how it might apply to some aspect of your agreement here in this reality. Nothing happens by accident. It can all be played off of. It's all an orchestration. All we are simply saying is, it's also a matter of discernment as to what works for you. And if you use your imagination in this way and apply these things in a manner that will work for you based on your understanding of your true self and the agreement that you made to be your true self in this particular modality, in this particular reality, then you can stay aligned and harmonious with your higher self and understand what it is you can achieve in this reality. You have far fewer limitations in this reality than you think, even within the parameters of the limitations you have imposed upon yourself for what is possible in this reality, or at least what is probable. The idea is that anything that represents your true joy, anything that represents your true self, your true passion, is manifestable. Is manifestable. But it is also about you paying attention to what is actually representative of your passion and not representative of your anxiety that is simply being called your passion. It requires discernment on your part to know whether you're coming from fear or true joy, and not labeling things that are representative of your fear as excitement when they actually in fact are not, but also vice versa. Not labeling your joy as a fear when it actually is representative of your true path. Because many people on your planet will stay away from the thing that really excites them the most because they have put a label of fear on it, or society has taught them to do so. This again is where your imagination can, in a sense, come to the rescue. Go back to your 0 point, press your reset button, and go, wait a minute. Who am I at the core? Who do I imagine myself to really be? What kind of person am I passionate about being? What kind of life am I passionate about living? In your imagination, you can see all those things. And that's why I have said many, many times, what's important, whether it becomes literally manifest as you see it in your imagination or not, what's important for communication and harmonization between the physical mind and higher mind is that when you do get a picture in your imagination of who you prefer to be, what you prefer to be doing, where you prefer to be doing it, how you prefer to be doing it, when you see that, all you really have to do is mimic it, mirror it, act it out as best as you can on all levels of your life. All you have to do is be like that person in your mind's eye. Do things the way he or she would do it. And then when you start doing things the way he or she would do it, you will change your vibration to the vibration that is representative of that life. And when you shift your vibration to the representation of that life, you will start to synchronistically have that life. All the things that are representative of what that you would have will come in. So that's how to use your imagination as an actual tool, an actual application tool. The idea being that when you open up to your imagination, you reset yourself, take yourself back to 0. Then you create the picture that is you, that you prefer to be. Then you act like it. You behave like it. And then you have 1, 2, 3, the whole manifestation process right there. 1, 2, 3. Let yourself reset using your imagination. Let yourself create using your imagination. Let yourself act it out using your imagination. And your imagination, thus then used in the 1, 2, 3 way, will allow you to become the magician that you are, and you will become a nation of magi. Do you understand this? All right. Now, we will, as this transmission goes on, of course, investigate some of these concepts a little bit more deeply and a little bit more personally as you engage us in questions and discussions. And just the thing to keep in mind while this is going on is that no matter how physical this interaction seems, it's also all happening in your imagination. Because remember, physical reality isn't by itself real, except the experience of it is. Physical reality and everything you experience in your life is created, whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, through what you imagine your reality to be. Your beliefs, obviously, your definitions obviously play a part. Your emotions play a part. Your thoughts play a part. But it is your beliefs, your emotions, and your thoughts that all wrap together into the triangle of your personality prism, and once it locks together in that triangle is the template of the imagination that activates your reality. That's the conduit through which you send those beliefs, definitions, emotions, and thoughts up to the realm of the higher self, where manifestation is immediate and instantaneous, and energy is all pervasive. Then the higher self, the higher mind, sends that thought, reflects it back through the imagination to the physical mind, and gives it to you in terms of the passion of your true self, so that by simply acting on it, by simply following your passion, the higher self lets you know, this is the wish you have sent me, translated into the language of the higher mind. Do it. Act it out. Act it out, and you will be speaking the language of the higher mind. You will be blended and harmonized as the physical mind and a higher mind into one holistic being, one holistic person that can then reflect that relationship into manifestations in an imagination reality that is being created by you. It is just a mirror. That's all it is. It's just reflecting back what you imagine it can be. That's all it is. So, as we said, with that in mind, we would invite you, in whatever way, shape, or form you imagine you would like to do it, to share with your questions or statements.